Welcome to Detroit. Doesn't matter if you have one ass cheek and 3 toes. I will beat your ass. You can drown them. And that's what we gotta be. That's who we have to be. Because that's our domain. That is our domain. Because we'll tread water as long as it takes to fucking bury you.
Takes the snap, turns, gives to Montgomery, right side, end zone, touchdown, Detroit Lions! Yes.
We are driven by Detroit.
Hello everybody, and welcome on back to yet another episode of MCM Motor City Mania. I'm your host, David T. Pike, and as always, we're diving in. So to all my Lions, friends, fans, and family members, I'm going to put this out there right now. I am absolutely at a point where I'm damn done. I am done with how little people are using their brains and how there are people out there who want to use absolutely no thought, want to be lazy when it comes to the Detroit Lions. And the reason I'm saying that is because despite everything that the Lions have done over the last 3 years, having 3 winning seasons, 2 division titles, have made it to the playoffs both years, won playoff games, got to the championship game, won the number 1 seed, all of that great success. Everybody now is looking at the 2025 season for the Lions, and they're just like, hey, you know what? Because of all these little reasons that have transpired over the last couple of months, the Lions aren't going to do good. They're going to regress. They're going to fall off. Some are even saying they won't make the playoffs this year. And you know what? I'm used to the Lions getting ridicule. I'm used to the Lions getting an overwhelming amount of insults and doubt because you know what? That's kind of the rite of passage for Lions fans. Has been that way for decades. And you know what? I've been a Lions fan ever since I was 6 years old. So I've been a Lions fan for pretty much 25 years. So I'm used to it. I've seen it. But what made me used to it is that, yeah, there was a time when our team was not good. And was not good repeatedly, consistently. So it was like, you know what? I couldn't really challenge that. Because it's like, yeah, our team hasn't been good. Our team isn't good. At best, our team would be stuck in neutral. At worst, our team would be continuing to regress further into the bowels of NFL hell. But yet, the funny part about it is that was when we were actually bad. So I really couldn't argue the point. I really couldn't do anything but just say, you know what, yeah, I got to take it out of the chin. But when you have a team that over the last 3 years has not had a losing season, has won 2 playoff games, gotten to the championship game, was a whisker away from going to a Super Bowl, and then last year was literally a mash unit on defense, but yet still won 15 out of 17 games. And now you have everybody and their brother who wants to say, oh, well, because of some events that have happened, the Lions are not going to be going anywhere this year. I don't know who the hell you're trying to kid. I don't know why you're being so damn lazy. But that is exactly why I'm absolutely pissed. And I'm sorry to use such language when it comes to my pre-recorded shows because I don't normally do it, but that's where I'm at. Because quite literally, the majority of the reasoning as to why the Lions are now finding themselves in this position yet again is because of 4 events that have happened since the end of 2024 going into this year. And the mockery, the skepticism that the Lions are getting is just absolutely insane. It's absolutely just mind-blowing. Because I'm going to tell you something right now. If there's one thing I know about us Lions fans, if there's one thing I know about the Detroit Lions, especially over the last couple of years, you know what? Go ahead and mock us, insult us all you want. But I'm going to let you know something. Here in Detroit, we keep damn receipts. And we hold on to them. And you know what? We use that we use that stuff for motivation. We use that to get back at you. And you know what the saying is about payback? Well, I'm going to tell you this way. Payback is going to hit people like a damn freight train. Again, like Dan Campbell has said, there ain't no light at the end of the tunnel. That's a freight train coming through. And you know what? The freight train's going to be the Lions literally steamrolling over people who wanted to be idiotic and wanted to hurl insults and mock us because of a couple of things that have happened. Now, what are those couple of things that I'm referring to? The 4 things I'm referring to is how the Commanders game went down, specifically with Jared Goff, the loss of the offensive and defensive coordinator, particularly the offensive coordinator more so, Hutch's injury and his comeback, and Frank Ragnow's retirement. Let's take a look at those. When many people want to talk about the Commanders game, again, they're wanting to talk about Goff. Everybody wants to say that because of how Goff played during the Commanders game, that somehow is a major issue and that the Lions are going to regress and that particular game, that right there is a true reflection of who Jared Goff is. Now, obviously, they're going to tie in the fact that with Ben Johnson gone, oh, well, you know what? Jared Goff's just not going to be the same type of player. Jared Goff is not going to be the same type of quarterback because he's lost his muse. The issue here is that people who want to open their mouths and just spew out crap, they do not think worth a damn. They refuse to see logic or reason to get to the truth of the matter. Because let's first actually address that game, the Commanders game. Yeah, I'm going to put it out there plainly. Jared Goff did not have a good game, and he'd be the first one to tell you he didn't have a good game. I'm not going to say he had a great game. He had a bad game. But here's what I find ironically stupid about that game. There is not a single damn quarterback that can ever say in the entirety of his time playing in the NFL that actually was worth a damn that he never had a bad game. You cannot find a single quarterback that has ever played in the NFL, especially in the modern NFL, that can say, yeah, you know what? I played my entire time in the NFL. I never had a bad game. Really? Okay, sure. And then to add even more on top of that, you take a look and you think about some of the greatest quarterbacks that have played in the NFL. Not a single damn one of them can ever say they ever had a bad game in the playoffs. Think about it. Some of the best quarterbacks, some of the biggest name quarterbacks over the last, 20, 30-something years. Both of the Mannings, Brady, Montana, Aikman, Breeze, Rodgers, Marino. I mean, the list goes on and on. Not a single one of them can say they never had a bad game during the playoffs. Why? Because it happens. You can't be perfect because last time I checked, the only person that's perfect is the good Lord above. And since he's not taking residence with any of those teams or playing football last I checked, ain't gonna happen. But yet, despite the fact that some of the greatest guys that have ever played the sport at the quarterback position have had bad games in the playoffs, some of them more than one, some of them multiple, yet when it comes to Jared Goff, he has one bad game, and yet that is the excuse, that is the reason that every freaking, lunatic wants to say, oh, well, that right there is the reason why the Lions are never going to go anywhere. That's the reason why Goff's never going to be a great quarterback, because of that one game. Because that game is indicative of his entire career. Really? Really? That's what you're going to go with. Because I'm going to tell you something here. For all those idiots that want to say that, one game does not define a player's career. And one game sure as hell does not define a quarterback's career. That's just not how it works. Because if that was the way it was, then, guys like Peyton Manning, guys like, Drew Brees, Joe Montana, and all those other guys, they would have never been considered greats. Because you're going to have bad games with great games. You're going to have okay games with not so okay games. That's how it happens. It's the NFL. Nobody's perfect. But yet everybody wants to use that Commanders game as the reason, as the proof, as the inspiration to condemn Jared Goff. Which again, I'm not trying to excuse how Jared Goff played during that game. But to make the sole issue about Jared Goff's performance is absolutely moronic. Because if we realistically want to talk about reasons that the Lions lost that game, how about the fact of all the defensive starters that they didn't have during that game? Didn't have Hutch, didn't have McNeil, didn't have Rodrigo, didn't have Barnes, didn't have a whole hell of a lot of players. But yet somehow nobody wants to talk about that. Nobody wants to talk about the fact that Ben Johnson during that game had some of the most idiotic play decisions that I've ever seen in my life. Everybody wants to talk about Jared Goff having all the turnovers that he had. But how about we talk about the fact that Ben Johnson was the one that put J-Mo in to throw a pass, and that pass was woefully bad and was an easy turnover. Nobody wants to talk about that. Nobody also wants to talk about the fact that it was apparently, abundantly obvious that both of our coordinators, offensive and defensive, their brains had already checked out and they were already thinking about their head coaching jobs in Chicago and New York. I don't give a damn what you want to try and say that, no coach is going to try and just say, you know what, I don't care if we win or lose because I've got a job. Realistically, you honestly want to say that? Human nature is a very funny thing. If you want to talk about what more people are interested in, it's money. And if it's like, hey, you know what? Yeah, if I can win, great. but I already know that whether I win or lose, I'm still getting a brand new job and I'm getting a bigger paycheck. That's what I mean. Their brains had already checked out. They were like, listen, I don't care if we win or lose because I'm already winning personally. That's the way humans are. And I hate to say it, but it's the damn truth. But for me, it's like, when you take a look at this whole situation with Goff and the Commanders game, that's one game. How was Jared Goff in the 2023 postseason? The postseason just the year prior. Oh, that's right. He was damn immaculate. Go back to the 2023 postseason. Goff was almost 70% in the postseason. 837 yards, 7.5 an average to throw, 4 touchdowns, 3.6 touchdown percentage per throw, 0 interceptions, with a 103.3 passer rating. That's about as good as a quarterback can be expected to play in the postseason. But nobody wants to talk about that. All anybody wants to talk about is, 2024 playoffs. Oh, the Commanders game. Oh, Jared Goff just absolutely had a bad game. No dip, Sherlock. But if that's all you're going to base your entire argument on, you be an idiot. Because to me, it's like, that's lazy, idiotic, disingenuous, foolish thinking. But as we also know, this is not the only reason that people are mocking the Lions. This is not the only reason that people are looking at the Lions and saying, oh yeah, you know what, they're going to regress. But I'm going to tell you this right now, that when it comes to guys like Jared Goff, oh yeah, they've heard it all. And I guarantee you this, they're keeping that receipt, and it is right there in the inner fold of their wallet. And they're going to pull that bad boy out, and they're going to use that to fuel them for an entire year or more. Because let's think about this here. As I was just talking about with the Commanders game and, Ben Johnson and Aaron Glenn, everybody also wants to talk about the fact that, the Lions, they're going to regress because we don't have our coordinators. We lost both our coordinators. This is probably, in my opinion, probably the biggest one that everybody uses, that, the Lions just can't be successful because they lost both of their coordinators in the same offseason. Wait a minute. Time out. Back the hell up here. Didn't the Eagles, the year before they went to the Super Bowl, which was last year, didn't they lose both of their offensive and defensive coordinator? And correct me if I'm wrong here, they also lost their starting center, Jason Kelce, due to retirement. And, oh my God, did or did they not go to the Super Bowl and win that Super Bowl? But yet, somehow the Lions can't do the same. Because Ben Johnson and Aaron Glenn, oh my God, they're just irreplaceable. Are you kidding me? Are you absolutely kidding me? Like, who are you trying to kid? Who are you trying to fool? What makes you think that somehow the Lions are not able to do something that the Philadelphia Eagles can just because they're the Philadelphia Eagles? No, sir. No, ma'am. Because let's understand something here. Are Ben Johnson and Aaron Glenn good coaches? Yeah, they're good coaches. But are they irreplaceable? Hell freaking no, they're not. Their leadership and supposed creativity as to what made our unit so special, that's stupid. Because, again, let's think about how this idiotic, lazy, and unoriginal thinking makes absolutely no damn sense. Because let's go back to Aaron Glenn and Ben Johnson before they came to the Detroit Lions. Oh, that's right. Neither one of those guys had any experience as being offensive or defensive coordinators. You want to know what they were? You want to know what they were primarily before they became the offensive defensive coordinator of the Detroit Lions? They were position coaches. They had no experience running a full offense or a full defense, not with any sort of measure. Ben Johnson had been a passing game coordinator for like 8 or 9 games? That sure as hell is not a freaking prerequisite for an offensive coordinator job. You might want to say you've been doing that for about a couple of seasons. So, you have both of these guys, they come into their positions, and they've got no experience at doing that job. And furthermore, let's think about this. Neither had been groomed, neither had been trained or mentored or any sort of extra whatever for their roles and responsibilities that they were going to have as offensive and defensive coordinator. But yet, wait a minute here. Correct me if I'm wrong, but John Morton has been an offensive coordinator both in the NFL and in college. He's also been a passing game coordinator for multiple seasons in both NFL and college ranks. And again, as I said, Ben Johnson, his only experience as being any type of coordinator was for like half of a season in 2021. But yet somehow everybody wants to say that, oh, you know what, he's irreplaceable. Are you absolutely out of your damn mind? I'm sorry, that's just absolutely erroneous thinking. So, Johnson comes into the position with virtually no experience at the job. He comes into his role as offensive coordinator, and everybody's like, "Oh, well, what do we expect from Ben Johnson? We don't really know. We've seen what he did for the last couple of games as a passing game coordinator in 2021, but nobody knew exactly what to expect of him in 2022. But as soon as 2022 hit, everyone was like, "Oh my God, this guy is the Messiah. This guy is the second coming. This guy is the greatest thing since sliced bread." And it's like, dude, this is the same guy that before Matt Patricia hired him, he was this close to quitting on football. Whereas, oh, that's right, with John Morton, he's coming into this job having more actual positional experience as far as, oh, he's been an offensive coordinator and a passing game coordinator multiple times between the college and the NFL ranks, which means he's more qualified than Johnson ever was. Now, when we flip it on the script and we take it over to Kelvin Shepard, oh yeah, Kelvin Shepard is in a very similar position as to what Aaron Glenn was when he came into the job. Because prior to Aaron Glenn becoming a coordinator, Glenn was not a coordinator. He was a positions coach. He was a defensive backs coach. And Glenn had received no mentoring, no sort of tutelage to assume the role of a defensive coordinator. Pretty much the largest reason why he became the defensive coordinator, other than the fact that, he was on the defensive side of coaching, was the fact that, oh, that's right, Dan Campbell and him had a long relationship with the New Orleans Saints, and when Dan Campbell took the job, he decided to make his best friend the defensive coordinator. That was primarily what the reasoning was. Which is also, wait a minute here, primarily the reasoning of what made Ben Johnson the offensive coordinator with the Detroit Lions because, of his relationship with Jared Goff. It was about relationships. It wasn't about their experience. They didn't have any. But wait a minute here. When we go back to Kelvin Shepard has received tutelage. He has received mentorship because Campbell and Glenn both specifically stated that they were grooming him to become the eventual defensive coordinator for the last 2 years. So even in that, Kelvin Shepard has a leg up on Aaron Glenn because, oh, that's right, his bosses made sure that they were going to mentor him, that they were going to put him in a position to succeed. So, wait a minute here. Both Shepard and Morton, they have both more training, both more experience, and also connection to the Lions prior to their getting of the job. Because, let's think about it here. Before Aaron Glenn got the job with the Lions, he had never been in Detroit. Let's see here. What was Ben Johnson's connection to the Lions prior to becoming the offense coordinator? Oh, that's right. He had been a tight ends coach, and that was pretty much it. Because, oh, that's right, Patricia hired him in 2020, so yeah, he was there for, the previous year or two, but again, had no experience actually with the damn job of being an offensive coordinator. John Morton can say he has. So again, you're not comparing apples to apples here, buddies and fans that want to say we don't have something. You're being idiotic. And again, let me ask you this. If supposedly Ben Johnson and Aaron Glenn are oh so great, and they're the reasons why our units did oh so well, please explain to me then how, when a coach that comes in that has actually been trained for the job, as is the case with Kelvin Shepard, or actually has the experience of doing the job under numerous great head coaches like John Gruden, Jim Harbaugh, and Sean Payton, how in the thunder then are you going to try and make an argument that states that, oh, when two bozos that got the job that didn't know freaking, their ass from the end of a tea kettle, somehow that they had everything going for them, but yet John Morton and Kelvin Shepard aren't? Do you realize how damn ridiculously stupid that sounds? And then think about this. Why are people acting like it was the coaches that made the team work and it was not actually more heavily leaned towards the players? Because, correct me if I'm wrong here, I don't recall Ben Johnson making the blocks that opened up those absolutely massive, humongous holes for Sonic and Knuckles to run through. I don't remember Ben Johnson ever putting on pads. I sure as hell don't remember Ben Johnson ever going out on a field and making passes or receiving passes. I don't remember that at all. And I sure as hell don't remember Aaron Glenn being everywhere on the defense, making tackles, sacks, turnovers, all that happy jazz. I don't remember that at all. That was all the damn players. And, oh, sure, the players do get proper coaching. That is true. But, again, kind of like how it is with teachers. The teacher is going to give the student the information and they're going to give them the basics. But correct me if I'm wrong here, do teachers go with the students once they're done at school and teach them what they have to do, or actually, make sure they're doing their homework, make sure they're applying themselves? No, that's typically on the student. The same thing applies with players and coaches. The players are going to get taught from the coaches the basics. They're going to get taught from them what they need to do. But do the coaches make sure that the players are applying themselves during the offseason, running drills, doing weight training, making sure they're in proper shape? No, that's the players. That's their commitment to the craft. And that commitment to their craft has allowed the Lions to have a whole bunch of players that are in the top 5, the top 10, top 20 on both sides of the ball. It's not just coaching. In fact, I would say coaching only makes up about 30 to 35% of the actual equation. More of it is based upon how the players are actually going to be committed to themselves and to the process. Because you can have some great coaches, but if you got players that aren't committed, I'm sorry, you ain't going nowhere. And then, let's talk about this other part of this. With whole of Ben Johnson about how, Ben Johnson's the one that made Jared Goff, and that, Ben Johnson is the reason Goff became such a great quarterback here in Detroit. I'm sorry. I just look at people like that, and you literally ever see that meme where the guy is sitting in the chair and he literally turns around and he's like, are you out of your damn mind? Because I'm sorry, Johnson did not make Goff, nor can he claim credit totally for Goff's success here in Detroit. Because, that's right, Goff was successful before he came to Detroit. He was successful in LA. He was successful in California when he was in college. This is a guy that has had success turning around 3 franchises or 3 different programs. And I'm sorry, no conversation about the Lions' supposed and idiotic regression can be had without talking about the Johnson-Goff angle, because that's where a lot of it stems from. I have worked diligently and insanely hard to prove that Johnson did not make Goff because, as I just stated, Johnson had no experience being an offensive coordinator, had no experience being a passing game coordinator except for like 8 or 9 games, and he sure as hell had never been a quarterback's coach. But yet somehow everybody wants to say, Ben Johnson's the reason why Jared Goff became this great quarterback in Detroit. No! If you try to pass that off, you are an absolute idiot. Because let's just take a look at the evidence here. If you take a look at the common sense, reason, and logic that are to be used when you're talking about this, Jared Goff since 2022 has had the 4th highest completion percentage, he's had the most passing yards, the 4th highest pass average per throw, the most passing touchdowns, tied 6th highest for passing touchdown percentage per throw, tied 5th lowest, which is good in terms of interception percentage per throw, and the 3rd best passer rating. Then when you take a look at Jared Goff as far as a play-action passer, where Goff is the best play-action passer in the NFL, it's not even up for debate. Since 2016, Jared Goff has had the most play-action yards by any quarterback. In fact, he's almost 1,500 yards higher than the number 2 guy, which is Kirk Cousins. But since 2022, Jared Goff is the 2nd highest completion percentage out of all quarterbacks in terms of play action, the most play action yards off of passing. He's also tied first for the best pass average per throw, first for passing touchdowns, tied 2nd for pass touchdown percentage per throw, tied 5th in interception percentage per throw, and ranked number 1 in passer rating. Okay, so in generic stats since 2022, he's been a top 5 quarterback. In play action stats since 2022, Jared Goff has been the best, like virtually the best. And again, if you take a look at last year, Jared Goff was 2nd in completion percentage, 2nd in passing yards, 2nd in pass average, 4th in pass touchdowns, 3rd in pass touchdown percentage per throw, 2nd in passing rating, and 6th in QBR. You want to try and tell me that a guy who had never been a quarterback's coach, you want to try and tell me that a guy who had never been an offensive coordinator, you want to try and tell me that a guy who'd only been a passing game coordinator for 8 or 9 games prior to becoming the offensive coordinator, you want to try and tell me that somehow that he's the reason that Goff just absolutely had this Phoenix resurrection in Detroit, whereas Goff has been doing what he had been doing for, what was it prior to getting here? Oh, that's right, I don't know, 6-7 years, and that's just in the NFL, plus the other 3 or 4 years he was in college. I mean, but somehow a guy, a little nobody who had that nobody had ever heard primarily before he came to Detroit, and freaking Goff and Campbell had plucked him out of obscurity. That's the reason why Goff somehow became this great quarterback. You would be an absolute idiot. Because I'm telling you this right now. Let me remind you all of something here. There's no way that kind of production comes solely from coaching. No way. I don't care who you are. I would argue with anybody. And second, let's think about this. If you want to say that, oh, well, this is what all the pundits are saying. Really? That's what you're going to go with? The same pundits, the same idiotic pundits who are saying the same things about the Lions and Goff now are also the same idiotic pundits that were saying that when Goff got here to Detroit, oh, that's right. There's no way Goff's going to be able to produce like, what he's done in the past. There's no way Goff's going to be able to win. Why? Because he doesn't have a supposed pacifier and freaking, Sean McVay. But yet, everything that they said that he couldn't do or shouldn't be able to do, oh my God, Goff was able to do it. Because everybody thought that there was no way he was going to revive his career, that he was going to be a bridge quarterback and he was going to come to Detroit to die. But yet, Goff has been able to prove that he doesn't need Sean McVay in order to be successful. He can win, and oh, by the way, he can win in probably one of the most difficult places in the NFL to win. And oh, by the way, he did that while having 2 rookie wide receivers to develop, a rookie tight end, a rookie running back, had also a rookie head coach, and also a rookie offensive coordinator. So let me ask this question. What's more likely? That somehow Johnson twirled some magic freaking wand and made Goff into this great quarterback overnight, or as Holmes had always stated, that Goff was always that damn good? What makes more sense? Seriously. And then, we talk about Glenn and the defense. I'm sorry, Glenn is not the reason, not solely the reason, why the defense had a turnaround. If you want to talk about who's primarily more the reason for that, that would be Brad Holmes. Because, correct me if I'm wrong here, it wasn't until 2024, really, that we finally got the defense that we needed to put together to actually have a championship football caliber team. Because, yeah, the offense had always been playing a championship level football, but the defense was woefully way behind. But then, 2024, all of a sudden, it turns around. But yet, nobody wants to remember that it was Brad Holmes that kept pumping resource after resource into that defense. In fact, let me put this out there for you. In the 4, drafts that the Lions had, so 2024, 2023, 2022, and 2021, going into the 2024 season, so 4 drafts, the Lions had drafted a grand total of 29 players. 16 of those 29 players were on defense. Then, let's think about this. Of those 16 players that were on defense, 3 of them were in the first round, 4 of them were in the second and third round, and then the other 5 were in the 4th round or later. Whereas on offense, oh, wait a minute here. The offense which had been producing better, the offense which had been absolutely playing at a championship level of football, which again, everybody wants to try and say that was all Ben Johnson, but nobody wants to give the credit to Jared Goff at all. That same offense, which only had 13 players drafted, 3 of which were in the first round, and 1 was in the second and third round, together. The other 8 were drafted in the 4th round or later. So think about this. Of the percentage of those picks for the defense, 68.8% of those 16 picks were in the 3rd round or higher. Whereas of the 13 picks on offense, only 38.5% of them were in the 3rd round or higher. And then, here's the part that really makes this absolutely funny. If you go back to the 2024 draft, 14 out of the 16 players that the Lions had drafted on defense were in the 2023 draft or earlier. That's 87.5%. But yet somehow everybody wants to say it was Aaron Glenn who suddenly made this defense just have a magic turnaround. How about you actually take a look at the guy that kept pumping in resources for Aaron Glenn to try and figure it out, and he finally did on the last year he was here. But yet somehow you want to tell me that because Aaron Glenn is gone, our defense is all of a sudden going to go back to a shell. Again, who are you trying to kid? Who are you trying to lie to? You sure as hell ain't going to do it to me because this is what I do. I check numbers, I check research, I check logic, I check stats. This is my job. And it's a job that I take very damn seriously. Now finally, let's talk about the last two reasons, which again, I've talked about quite extensively over the last couple of months. But this whole nonsense about how the Aiden Hutchinson injury is somehow going to be a problem for the Lions, and now that with Frank Ragnow retiring, again, that's going to be a problem. Well, let me just go back over the whole Frank Ragnow thing really quickly. Since I already talked about the other one, we lost our offense coordinator. We lost our defense coordinator. We just lost our all-star freaking, center. The same concoction, the same mixture that the freaking Eagles had the previous season, and then, oh, that's right, they then went to the damn Super Bowl and won it. But somehow the Lions can't do that. Are you trying to kid? Who are you trying to kid? Who are you trying to lie to? Please tell me, because I was born, but I sure as hell wasn't born yesterday. And then let's talk about the Hutch injury. Oh yeah, Hutch had a serious injury in the fifth game of the year against the Dallas Cowboys for the Lions. Yeah, that's true. Broke both his tibia and his fibula. But again, this is the same guy who in college, in his junior year, he fractured his ankle, and then the very next year he came back and had 12 and a half sacks, was considered the best edge rusher in the country, and then that's how the Lions drafted him at pick number 2 overall in the same draft that we're talking about. And yet somehow people are trying to say, well, that's not the same thing. Yeah, it is. You're talking about broken bones. You're talking about in a lower extremity, which is a very difficult thing for an edge rusher to have, damaged. And yet the very next year, he comes back better than he was the year prior. But yet somehow, Aiden Hutchinson can't do it again. Somehow, Aiden Hutchinson having access to the best medical facilities in Dallas, getting immediate care and, surgery done on his leg, having that injury possibly in the best position, how do I put this? Having that injury happen the best possible way it could have happened, where there was no tear to any ligaments, no tear to any tendons, it was just broken bones. You want to try and tell me that Hutch can't come back from that? I'm sorry, where's your medical degree at? I'm sorry, when did you ever perform a surgery? It sure as hell, if you want to try and say it was because I watched MASH for all 12 seasons, well then I don't think that makes you a qualified surgeon now, does it? That's my whole point. Every freaking idiotic reason that these people keep coming up with, it's like, have you seriously thought this out? Have you seriously actually stepped back and say, wait a minute here, before I open my mouth, should I actually do some research or should I just spew out the first piece of crap that comes to my brainstem? And that's why I've lost my patience with these kinds of people. It's like, you don't think. That's my point. And I'm going to end this episode because if I keep going, I'm going to have a damn aneurysm. So having said that, I'm going to say thank you all for watching another episode of MCM Motor City Mania. If you like what you saw, by all means, highly encourage you all to watch the next episode. Also encourage you all to do one of these 3 things: like, comment, and subscribe. If by chance you subscribed in the past and forgot to do so at the time, I want to highly encourage you all, please make sure you hit that bell notification icon so that way you never miss any more content. Also, if you share this content, please share this content because I need to stop seeing people wherever it is, on TikTok, Facebook, Twitter, just absolutely opening their soup kitchen and freaking crap spewing out of it. Let's get people to actually start thinking for once. And having said that, I hope this content was able to give you a new perspective, maybe reinforce an old one. But again, I try to give you guys original content, and I try to give you guys all the information I possibly can. And I hope that's what I did. And I hope you all have something in your life that makes you happy, makes you smile. God bless, my friends. And until the next time we meet, I'll see you all in the next episode.